Hello and welcome to the Hard Stuff Podcast. Today my guest is Ryan Jones. Ryan is founder and CEO at Refuel Creative. He is a digital Adelaide organiser. He is an EO Adelaide board member, a speaker, a marketer and a digital technology specialist. He's also my friend and a great bloke. Now, a bit of a trigger warning here. We get into some fairly dark topics and we actually talk about self-harm. If that's going to trigger you in any way, don't listen. I mean that very seriously. I don't want that on my conscience. It actually triggered me. It put me in a bit of a dark place for the next couple of weeks after the recording. It's something that has touched my life fairly significantly. Funnily enough, this is actually the second time I've recorded this intro, because the first time I went on a 10-minute, trauma dump about my experiences with self-harm and how it's affected my life. Not my self-harm, but how other people... You get the picture. I'm going to leave it there. Maybe later I will dive into that topic a bit more. But at this stage, I'm still figuring out whether there's actually value to anybody or that's just, some entertaining trauma dump for what purpose, and it's just going to trigger people. I don't know. Either way, this is a fantastic episode. I love Ryan. He's a very smart guy and he's done some very cool stuff. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please like and subscribe, or please subscribe on whatever audio platform you are listening it to, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. Ryan Jones, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for coming on my show, Luke.
Bit of behind the scenes. There was a few technical difficulties, so we're actually recording with your equipment, but we'll get through. I'm trying to calm down after the panic attack of you showing up and me having no way to record the show. But we got there, so...
I think it's the name of the show, mate. It's not the way you have to run the show. It have to be hard.
I think I just make things hard. Look, I wanted to start with if you could dive a bit into your business. So today's show is going to be about entrepreneurship, some of the issues going through building a business, starting a business. I think when we spoke about what we're going to try to talk about in the episode, you want to make it relatable and talk about a few of the issues, because I think that's important. I kind of despise, now I know that's a harsh word, but I despise a lot of the, entrepreneurial content out there, because it's all pretty unrealistic bullshit.
Just hustle harder, Luke.
It's so ridiculous. Anyway, so if you could just dive into your business to start and what you're currently doing, and we'll go from there.
Cool. So I've currently got two businesses. My main business, I guess you call it, is Refuel Creative.
I didn't know you had two businesses.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're a digital marketing agency. We're based in Port Adelaide, South Australia. We've been around for nearly 8 years now. And we've got about 10 staff, mostly in Port Adelaide, but a couple remote.
Yeah.
From Port Adelaide, we service Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the US, Singapore, Israel.
Oh, awesome.
All over the world.
Can I ask where your remote staff are?
I've got one in Queensland and we've got one in the Philippines.
Yes.
And then we've got a whole model that we can talk about if you want, but...
I think I would like to talk about a model as in for outsourcing.
No, for our global footprint. So our mission at Refuel is to build a 24/7 always-on digital marketing agency.
Okay.
We've just found that, whether it's a startup founder that their only time to review their data is 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and that's when they're having a panic attack about their numbers and they need somebody to talk to. That happens quite a lot. But then also it's the global marketing teams. We've worked with some marketing teams that have got 120 people all over the world. Those people need support when they need that support in different time zones.
So how do you achieve that if you've only got the Philippines, which is 2.5 hours behind us, and then Australia?
Well, quite simply, we're not quite there yet.
Okay. I was going to say, does that just mean you're on call 24/7?
No, so we're at about 12 by 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
But by hiring in a couple of strategic locations, so Mexico and South Africa are probably the two next ones that we're looking at rolling out in.
Yeah.
That gives us that 24/7 time coverage,
Yeah.
and also just allows people to have the flexibility they want.
Yeah. Well, this is very timely for me. And I'm really interested to dive deeper into this. So I just caught up with David Bartholomew yesterday because I'm at this position where I feel like I'm spinning my wheels in Australia. So the Australian market, it's a niche industry. There's still a lot of room for growth, but comparing the Australian market to the world, it's quite small. And then on top of that, there's a labour shortage. Wages in what we do is extremely high. And I feel like, I've got to take some responsibility for this, but I feel like I'm on a bit of a cycle where I'll hire a business development manager, they'll talk themselves up. 3 months down the track, nothing's happened. I've lost an extreme, the business makes a decent net profit, but wages in Australia are so high that one business development manager eats up all the profit. And then you find you've just wasted the last 6 months and haven't made any money. So I'm currently looking at, first of all, I need engineers because I want to start getting real serious about our product development. And there's just no way I can do that within Australia because my competitors are big multinationals who have engineers all over the world. So I was like, I'm going to hire engineers, and I've been looking at a bunch of different countries. And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to hire engineers in a different country, why not just take my business global and I can actually sell product to the whole world, right? So I'm currently going through that journey now, but we were talking about all sorts of countries, South Africa, Philippines, Vietnam, and then just their different ways that you can hire people there and their laws and, how, I guess, open they are to foreigners running businesses over there. So,
Well, even just in Australia, the employment environment has changed here.
Yeah.
The government haven't quite caught up to how that works.
Yep.
So, if somebody works on a Sunday, then they're expecting their penalty rates to work on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But if it suits that person to work on a Sunday and they want to swap their Tuesday so they can go out with the kids for the day, but they want to work Sunday instead, then that's their choice and we're willing to give them that flexibility. But why should we pay penalty rates for that if it's their choice to swap the day?
Yeah. I think a lot of the Australian laws appeal, obviously, to the lowest common denominator, and it just takes away all flexibility as both an employer and employee for situations like you were speaking about.
So in general, what we've found is people don't want to work overnight.
Yep.
And that's 100% fair enough.
Yeah.
So, we see hiring in these other countries as being an enabler to enable us to do something different rather than a cost-cutting exercise.
Yep.
We're adding people in these other countries. We're not swapping them out.
Yep. But your clients are global anyway, are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
it'll take some of the pressure off our team here so that we're not doing, long days catering for different time zones.
Yeah.
We really want somebody to be available in every time zone where we've got clients so that they're available when they need during their business day at least.
So how many clients would be Adelaide based as a percentage and how many of them would be interstate and global? Like, is this a recent kind of shift or you've always had that?
We've always been not very well known in Adelaide.
Yep.
The other business that I run with a couple of friends of mine, which runs the Digital Adelaide conference. So between the three of us, we run Adelaide's biggest marketing conference.
Okay, so that's not done through Refuel.
No, that's not done through Refuel.
Yep.
And so there's two other partners in that business. We all work together to put that event on. And that has definitely helped get our name out there more in Adelaide and get us known in the marketing world in Adelaide. Mm-hmm. But because of the work I was doing before I started this business, we were doing a lot of work in the NT. We did a lot of work in other states and countries. So when I went out on my own, I was in a role in that other business where I'd sort of transitioned over time into more of an education role, but I was very strictly not allowed to do delivery. So you can educate people as much as you want, and some people are going to turn around and go, you know what, I don't have time to do this. This is too hard. Can you just do it for me? And my hands were tied. I had to say no to all of that. Whereas
that wasn't through a company that you owned. That was through.
no, so that was through I worked for a non-profit,
Yep.
and they only wanted to do the training piece.
Gotcha.
So once I went out on my own and people found out I was out on my own, LinkedIn and things like that, the phone started ringing. People like, hey, can you actually do this thing for us now?
Yep.
We haven't found anyone to do it, and we just want to work with you.
Yep.
And so that meant that, the first couple of years I'd spent a couple of months in Darwin working with clients up there. Some of the New Zealand clients early on came through that relationship as well. Some of the sort of Southeast Asia and US clients.
And you were traveling?
Yeah.
So did you feel a need initially to make sure that you're meeting with your clients face to face, but then as time has gone on, you've realised that that's not as much as a necessity? Or are you still travelling around the world for new clients?
So my travel has dropped off a lot since COVID for fairly obvious reasons there.
Yeah.
But I'd say the work that we were doing back then, a lot of it needed to be done face to face. Like it was site inspection type work and some systems work that had to be done face to face.
Yep.
As time's gone on, that's been less of an issue.
Yeah.
But definitely, like COVID, one of the great things about COVID for us is, we had clients in the city who would want to meet face to face once a month.
Yeah.
And, for me at the time, it was like, all right, well, that's a 2-hour round trip for a 30-minute meeting.
Yeah.
So you'd say to them, look, if you want to meet today, I can meet at 3:00 for half an hour on Zoom, Google Meet, or I can come in next week on Wednesday afternoon for a face to face.
Yeah.
And all right, we'll take the Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And COVID's kind of taught them, okay, well, this virtual thing works quite well.
Yeah.
So you'd always prefer to meet face to face. But the practicalities of things make that quite difficult.
Yeah. Well, it's not really scalable, is it? Especially if you're the one meeting personally with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday I met with Victoria, Brisbane and Adelaide CBD.
Yep.
Within 3 hours of each other.
Yep.
I don't have a plane fast enough to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, this is something that I do love Zoom and I utilise it a lot for work, but I do think something is missing there. So as far as like business related, I'm happy to do Zoom, but I may change this. But for the podcast, I've made a commitment to only do face to face, which, has me flying to Melbourne next week, and batching guests. And I'm like, I don't know whether this is sustainable or not. But I do think for a podcast, I like being face to face.
Yeah, it's good for you.
But then I got to, force poor blokes like you to drive an hour south.
Yeah, and people interstate don't think about that either. They go, we get an opportunity that's in Adelaide, and they just go, some of our partners and stuff. Can you go out and do a demo with these guys? Sure, where are they? Lonsdale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Gawler. That's a 90.
Are you in Gawler?
Yeah, so today's like 90-minute round, like each way.
Oh God, sorry.
So if you could do all of that via Zoom and just be more efficient with your time.
Yep.
I don't know about you, mate, but time feels like it's ticking away these days. And you never have enough of it. So
yeah.
I'd much rather do things face to face when you can and when they're pleasurable to do so. But you need to find a way to make it kind of fit your life as well.
Yeah. So tell us about some of your early business issues.
Yeah, I started quite early on. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship for private school when I was reasonably young. That school had a laptop program, so bring home. My parents had to save up and buy a laptop when I got to a certain year, and that was the first computer in the house.
Yep.
Um,
When was this?
1997.
Okay.
I've still got it. It's in the office actually.
Yeah.
Just
In your display cabinet.
well, it shows the younger people, like, this is what a computer used to look like.
Yeah.
It's like 2-inch thick laptop. Had to carry to school every day. But yeah, I just took to it because it was like the most high tech thing in my house. We had a Sega Sega Master System, and a electric typewriter.
Yep.
And this laptop turned up. So
How good was the Sega Master System? Oh wait, no, I had the Mega Drive. I had the Sega Mega Drive.
Yes.
Was that newer, the Mega Drive?
Yeah, the Mega Drive was newer. You had the flash one.
Yep. I think we used to play Sonic and Lemmings. I think that were my two go-to, and Alex the Kid, I think.
Yes. Well, the Master System had Alex the Kid built in.
That's right.
Didn't
Yeah,
have
there
a
was the
cartridge.
yeah,
it's the best.
I want to get one of them. They're probably worth like $500 now.
So much.
Yeah.
So just took to it. And so my mates and I at work, at school, learn how to code apps and build websites and things like that. And back then it was kind of, the web design industry wasn't as evolved as it is now.
Yep.
And kind of there wasn't that many people servicing the low end of the market. So here I am, I'm 12 years old, and I'm building a website for a company that made a few hundred bucks out of it. And
Oh wow.
that's kind of how my whole journey started, I guess.
Okay.
And then my school did something quite unique where they tried to run what you'd now call a social enterprise within the school. So they had school students repairing laptops, and they also effectively sold our labour out to some partners and things.
Yep.
So, we were building, like a team of us were building websites for like the school outdoor ed
Yep.
kind of supplier, and we did some work on the school's website and
Okay.
a couple of things like that. And that just, those little website jobs and things like that, that's what I did through high school when friends were doing fast food and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've been doing ever since, to some extent.
Yeah.
But I was quite interested in the deeply technical side, whereas a lot of people would specialize in either the tech or the marketing or the design.
Yep.
Whereas I was interested in bringing all of that together.
Yep.
So went off to uni and started a double degree in engineering and marketing.
Okay.
Started a business with a friend through that process, and got turned off of entrepreneurship for a little while there, and then kind of got to a point in my day job where...
Can we hear a bit more about that initial entrepreneurial journey? What happened?
So we we started this company, a friend of mine and I, from school. He'd dropped out a few years before.
Yep.
I had an idea for a product. You'd laugh at it these days, but we were building cloud management for video rental stores.
Okay.
And I had an in at one of the independent chains that were quite interested in looking at it because the market was terrible.
Yep.
Like, people hadn't updated these things for years.
How did they do it previously?
So they ran a little database on one of the computers in the store, and the computer would crash, and they'd lose the database, and the daily backups, and all those things. So this was long enough ago where people were like, "Oh, what happens if the internet goes down?" The concept of cloud software, they were freaking out about what would happen to the business.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, it's just what we accept.
So how far did you get in the business? Did you start revenue and stuff like that?
No, so we got the software reasonably far along.
Mm-hmm.
We had a working, I guess you call it an alpha version of that software.
Yep.
We took on a private client to build out a website and a platform for them, just to keep cash coming in, and it seemed like a good opportunity.
Yep.
And I guess through that relationship with that client, I think, the benefit of hindsight now, I think it was just not clearly explaining the expectations, and just making sure that everybody understands what's going to happen here and when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're building a product-based business like that, one of you is the primary person that's building the program.
Yep.
The other one's doing the sales and the consultation and the marketing and the product development.
And that was just the disconnect there.
Yeah, you're going to do different work at different times as well.
Yeah.
So the developer's going to do a lot of work in some stages,
Yeah.
and then be able to take a holiday while somebody else picks up.
Yeah.
And I guess that wasn't properly. I figured that was reasonably well understood, but I think it wasn't quite. And then there was a third party there that kind of jimmied in on that and saw an opportunity to take my partner off and help their business.
Okay.
And so that kind of he walked away from the business before the product was ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. So how long was this kind of whole process?
Probably a year in total.
Oh,
year and a
wow.
half.
So how are you surviving during that period?
I had a day job at the start of it.
Okay.
And then I sort of moved on. We were kind of just trying to get by based on the little revenue that had come in.
Through website design and stuff like that.
I still lived at home at the time, so that made things a little bit easier.
Yep.
But obviously all the stresses start to add up, and in the end I took another job at the end of it and had to do that to be able to clean up the business. And
So did our relationships survive?
No, unfortunately not. And we're never really able to reconcile. But through the whole set of circumstances, he, a couple of other people, he lost a couple of other mutual friends in that process as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, as part of one of the things that I've learned through this journey is a lot about mental health.
Yep.
And making sure that we look after ourselves. And it was about 6 months after that whole thing devolved that he took his own life.
Ah.
So it's one of those things that you don't get to resolve, really.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there. So that was quite difficult for everyone.
How old were you at the time?
21, 22.
Oof.
Yeah. So it's just And you just things make a lot more sense in hindsight. I guess that's one thing that I want to sort of take from my learnings that I've got here, and I've got a kid now, and
Yeah.
just help her understand what's going to happen in the future. And
Yeah.
big thing in my house is like nothing's broken, it's all fixable, it's all good. So
How they this is something I've never spoken about publicly, but probably 6 or 7 years into the business, we hired someone, and they started off okay. They started off quite well, and I could see their performance was deteriorating, and I was so busy with the business. The dogs. I was so busy with the business. I didn't really give much time to them. I was more like, their performance is deteriorating. They need to step up. Anyway, there was some suspicion of substance abuse. And I had that conversation with him, and he was completely in denial. And then he didn't show, so I'm just trying to remember it all in my brain because I've blocked a lot of it out. This was probably about 2 years ago. He showed up for work, and it was pretty clear that he was just out of it all day, right? And there was not even worth having the conversation with him. And then the next day at about 10 o'clock, he didn't rock up for work. And about 10 o'clock, I've been trying to call him all morning. He called me back at 10. And I was pretty blunt with him and just said, hey, mate, look, it's pretty clear that you were, affected yesterday. And you know, and like this, and he just wouldn't admit that there was anything going on, and me and all the staff were aware. So I fired him over the phone and just said, look, no, you know, I've warned you, you're not doing it, you are not showing up. And he killed himself 2 days later. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but like, I don't know, like I wasn't able to run the business for a while after that, like properly, because I was just so scared of upsetting staff. So I'm still trying to find that balance of trying to make sure everyone's mental health is okay, but still, you know, at the end of the day, the business still needs to make a profit, and we can't just, it was a really, I still haven't figured out how I feel about it. You know, it put me in a pretty dark place there for a month, you know, and obviously I took a lot of that, like, you know, as my responsibility, and like I didn't do enough to resolve the situation. And then I kind of just buried it down. I don't know.
But you don't know what else is going on in that person's life. So in some respects, it's almost the easier option to take the responsibility yourself and go, you know, I fired this bloke, so this is what happened. Look, but it's just not the reality.
It's not the reality, you know. It's just that, I don't know. I'm still trying to find the balance of how much to dig. Like I always had the mentality of like, don't dig into employees' personal life. But I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out that balance and focusing more about mental health, especially in our industry, right? Because I think the second I bring up mental health, it kind of turns people off, and you know, it's still quite heavily stigmatized in our industry, but it's something I'm deeply passionate about. Still trying to figure that one out.
We try to make it, perhaps too much so, we try to make it so that people do feel comfortable bringing stuff to me.
Yep.
Because if I don't know about it, we can't accommodate for it, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as the leader of the business, that means that a lot ends up getting thrown on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 3 staff that are all dealing with some pretty heavy issues at the same time. You're the one that's got to then figure out the accommodations and, you know, keep a track of these things and help them with it.
So how do you implement that, I guess?
A lot of tough, honest conversations. Giving a little as well, so making it clear to them that, you know, you've got to model the behaviour that you want to see. So, you know, there's been a couple of times where I've had to say to them, look, this is what I've got going on.
Yeah.
This is the support and accommodation I need from you guys. And that kind of transparency helps people understand, all right, so you don't just talk about this stuff here, like this is for real.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I almost think about it like organizational PTSD. Like, they've gone into places and, you know, they've said to their manager that they've got some kind of weakness, and the manager finds a way to fire them as a result of that weakness or that flexibility they need, or whatever it is. Whereas in actual fact, if that place was a place that's worth working at, you know, people are a bit more invested in you and prepared to help where they can. Yeah.
Well, looking back to this situation, like I gave him the opportunity, but there was just nothing, you know. Like, I could tell something was up, and I tried really hard. And since then, you know, I've had a few other employees with mental health issues, and, you know, I think I've dealt with them quite well. Like, I've hung around and had deep conversations with them and made sure they're okay. But I guess I just don't know where the line is, because there's another aspect, you know, like I had another person in my life try to commit unsuccessfully, and I ended up being the one to take them to hospital and kind of force some sort of action so this didn't happen again, right? And I think a lot of that was scarred from the previous, obviously, situation, because this was after that. But the emotional toll, so I felt like I needed to inject, even though, I don't know, I'm definitely not the closest person in this person's life that should have been interjecting, but I did. And the emotional toll that took on me. So it's a balance of like, you know, let's say you've got 14 staff or whatever. You can't, I guess, be deeply emotionally available for all of them. I don't know. It's a balance I haven't figured out yet.
No, I haven't either. Because you end up, if you're deeply emotional available for all of them, yeah, can you still be emotionally available for yourself?
Yeah, and also like I'm not this like person up on the, you know, top of the mountain where my mental health is, you know, ideal, and
But I don't know, like the mentality used to be, you know, who the fuck are you to tell me what to do because you're not perfect?
yeah,
Whereas now it's like, you're just the person that's providing the help, right?
yeah,
And you don't have to be perfect to be able to provide help or provide a sounding board to somebody else.
yeah,
I think the narrative shifted a little bit there and people are a bit more accommodating.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, if these people are having a real hard time or a real episode, maybe they're going to lash out and accuse you of something. But you know, I think in reality, the dust settles down and they'll realise what's actually going on. And yeah.
All right, let's change the pace a bit because that got real hectic. All right, well, yeah, let's keep going with your business story. So what happened?
Yeah.
The next part of it.
Well, I kind of always kept doing the same kind of thing in different places and different ways.
For other people?
Yeah, for other people.
Yep.
You know, I got an opportunity to do a project with UniSA when I was still at uni, where we interviewed all these restaurants in the US about lobster.
Yep.
Because at the time, Australia wanted to, you know, let me know if you've heard this record before, because it's come out in the news again recently, but the Chinese market were going to stop buying our lobsters. And like, this is 15 odd years ago now, I think. But so they wanted to crack into the US market, but they had a completely different lobster, a completely different set of scenarios. So they did this project through the US. And of course, my thing is, hey, I can build a survey system for us to collect all this data and analyze it. So building a survey system for that. And then we flew over to the US and travelled around with lobsters on our shoulder to show these chefs how to...
Really?
Yeah.
Australian lobsters on your shoulder.
Australian lobsters.
And so that was a project through uni.
Yeah. And it was the weirdest thing, because you go to Compton, which is not at all like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And you grab these live lobsters out of a tank and put them in a foam box and then mail them across the country. And, you know, you're sitting in Gordon Ramsay's kitchen in New York, showing his head chef, because, of course, he doesn't cook himself in any of these places anymore.
Yeah.
Showing him how to humanely and ethically kill a lobster and then harvest all the meat out of it. And
wow. And that was funded by the Australian government?
Yeah, that was funded by the Australian government and the Lobster Fishers Association, because they wanted to fix this problem.
Wow.
And America kind of looked at our lobster and went, oh, there's too much waste in it, where we had to educate them on, you can get all this meat out of areas you can't get out of your lobsters, because your lobsters are these weeny little 1.5 kilo things.
Yep.
Ours are 4.5 kilo monsters.
Yep.
Wow. But again, like, it really sort of lit the fire under me around the opportunities with international marketing. You know, the world's not that big.
Yeah.
You know, we'd get into work at 5 a.m. and start ringing these chefs before service started, and that helped me get my my industry job, where I was working in Australia, New Zealand, APAC, doing marketing there for a while. And
hold on, before you go any further, did America start buying our lobsters? I suppose the Chinese never stopped, did they? So the fear didn't really.
Yeah, I think the US bought more, but I think they're still really in the Chinese market.
Okay.
But again, like,
it makes sense as far as location as well, though.
But China comes up and down, and and it's tricky because they send them to the US, they want to send them alive. Mm-hmm. So obviously packing live lobsters into crates and sending them over, it's an interesting thing. Yeah. Especially sending them overnight in the US in foam boxes. The things we left in hotel rooms.
Surely there'd be a demand we don't need to get into the economics of lobsters, but you'd think there'd be enough of a demand here in Australia because, like, realistically, you can't find them anywhere in Australia. I don't know, do Australians just not want to pay for?
Yeah, I think it's the capacity to pay, really.
I suppose the market size is so much smaller in comparison to the US.
Yeah, and these were bigger lobsters as well. Like the lobsters that you see in the shops at Christmas time now, they're pre-cooked and they're selling those for about $100 a kilo.
Yeah.
But they're only selling you maybe 800 grams, 700 grams.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole lobster is 4.5 kilos. Not very many people in Australia are going to pay $100 a kilo for a 4.5 kilo lobster.
$400. Yeah.
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 And plus, if you're buying the whole lobster and you don't know what to do with it, you end up throwing a lot of it out when you really shouldn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some stuff, man.
Yeah, I could imagine.
But, it's all these kind of experiences that take you to where you want to go and really help you learn what you need to learn. And also just how small Adelaide is. Like,
yeah.
My tutor for that course ended up getting in touch with me years later about a job opportunity with us at Refuel, and you just think, the world is small, and
well, and that's kind of, like I said, over the last few weeks, the realization I'm coming to, hopefully, that the Australian market for what we do is just so small, and if I can somehow, like I've watched competitors in lower wage countries within my opinion poor engineering designs and products and stuff like that. I've just watched them explode because they've just got access to a global market, right? And I can't see any reason why I don't. So that's my next journey, I guess.
I read something yesterday that if because Trump's got his theory about making all these countries part of the US at the moment.
Yeah, he's taken over the world apparently. Yeah.
So if Australia was absorbed into the US, Australia as a country would be their third or fourth biggest state.
Okay.
So you think about the size of that country then with 50 different states.
Yeah.
We would be behind California, New York, and Texas, and a couple others.
Yep.
So the people talk about cracking the US market. It's huge.
Yeah.
You don't need to be successful over there. You don't even need to crack the US market. If you can succeed in cracking the Kansas market or the Wyoming market.
Well, that's what I was talking to somebody about yesterday. That just focus on one state in America, and worst case, you burn a few bridges, you move to another state.
Yeah.
The market out there is so big, and like I said, I mean, the Australian market for what we do is so colloquial. I feel like everyone's bouncing all over each other. And again, like I'm just at the level where all our competitors are just multinationals with huge resources behind them. So I'm sick of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results,
That's the cool thing about the journey that we're on there. Like it's of interest to our potential clients there, the work that we're doing to open those markets up for us.
Yeah.
So now, like some of the advisors and things that we've worked with are like, you guys realize that you're doing all the R&D for your good fit clients here.
Yeah.
And so now somebody like you can come to us and go, I've got this product and I want to tap into this market. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We know how to do that. We've done that for ourselves. We've done that for these clients.
Yep. So what size companies are you working with?
Well, we've worked with, like on an ongoing basis, we work with companies that are like 1 or 2 person, startup type companies through to $1 billion public boost companies.
Oh, wow.
And what we find consistently is the thing that we like about the good ones is that kind of growth mindset. The $1 billion companies that have a very fixed budget that, if we come to them and say, hey, look, if you spend an extra $5,000 on your ad spend this month, you'll make an extra $500,000. And they go, no, we don't have $5,000 in the budget. Yeah. Well, that's just not interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating because you can see the data tells you that that's the outcome that you should expect.
Yep.
experience tells you that that's the outcome you should expect, they're not going to do it.
Yep.
Whereas now we're seeing this whole, rise, probably less so in Australia and more in the US, these 1 or 2 person businesses that just effectively outsource everything.
Yes.
There might be a product development company where they develop the product and then somebody else builds it, somebody else warehouses it, somebody else markets it.
Yeah.
And they've got no overhead, they've got no risk. Everything's just turn up and down as they need to.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you think about 1 or 2 person business may not have the revenue to support doing some serious marketing activities, but they do, and they're outsourcing it. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's something that was kind of a mistake that I made initially. Maybe it's not a mistake. I mean, I didn't have the resources, but I just thought every business has to do every single aspect of their own supply chain. You know what I mean? Like, you got to do your own manufacturing, you got to do your own design, you got to do your own marketing, you got to do that. You don't realize how much of that stuff you can just easily outsource. What do you think about, and maybe this is just in my head, I mean, I have a fear of marketing companies, and I'll tell you why.
Here we go.
Because I don't know what they're like. I fear that, and I think it's just because a lot of the cold calls ones give people a negative reputation, because it feels like I had a guy a few years ago come in and just basically, take a card and then kept bugging me to set up a meeting. And then he said, the thing that you need is a new website, or like to get the website that you deserve. And he wanted to charge me like $7,000 for a website, but there was no talk about like, how is this? Like, you don't even know how my company generates leads. Like, how is this going to help me? None of this is your problem, but I'm just interested in like how a company like you would operate, and can you change my mind?
Yeah, look, I think the marketing industry is an interesting one, and it's changed a lot over the last probably 10 years more than anything. But marketing gets put on the hook for a lot of things in a lot of businesses now. I know businesses where the marketer is responsible for the P&L, the income, like they're the accountable person there that needs to deliver that. We've got marketers that are responsible for product development decisions now, and they'll go and they'll run surveys, and they'll get information from your prospects, and all right, look, bring your engineer together. This is the product that they need.
Yep.
Which is awesome, because you've got customer led product development.
Yeah.
If you've got a big enough customer sample size to validate it, that's brilliant.
Yep.
But I think people are still stuck in this mindset of marketing is graphic design, or marketing is an expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, marketing is an investment that should be providing a return. And these days we've got such sophisticated tools to be able to demonstrate that return that, really the days of, hey, I want to run this campaign and it's going to be cool. It should be about how many phone calls did you get, how many orders did you get, how many, sales, whatever it is. We should be able to justify that a lot more.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you need a website, then why do you need a website? And the marketing industry is just as guilty of this as the clients.
Yep.
Because sometimes the clients go, I need a new website. Okay, cool, but why?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's dated. Okay, yeah, I can see that. And, if it's dated, then we might be able to use that as a conversation to say, all right, well, we can see that, doesn't look like it's going to be providing many leads, is it?
Yeah.
No, cool, all right. So the whole game has shifted, and you need to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Sometimes it means you got to spend a couple of bucks on the right technology to be able to measure it.
Yep.
Can't all be on the marketing company if you're not prepared to make the investment.
Yep.
But you can measure all kinds of crazy stuff these days.
Yeah.
And demonstrate the return.
Okay.
So the marketing, I still think quite strongly that marketing should be able to demonstrate a return.
Yeah.
The data is there. Maybe not every single portion of marketing can demonstrate that. clearly, but if you look at it as a whole and how it supports each other,
Yeah.
the whole thing should be able to say, all right, I put in 100K into my marketing this year, and marketing alone generated 500K worth of new business.
Yep. See, so yeah, I mean, this is something I need to look into because, like, the early days, I was just guerrilla tactics, right? Knocking on doors, knocking on doors, knocking on doors. And I didn't know, I still don't know anything about marketing. And yeah, I just made some stupid mistakes, you know, like even now, there's a pump industry magazine, right? And I advertised there in the early days. I think it's like $8,000 to get a full page for a couple of pages, and I keep getting bugged now by the person who sells the advertisement, and I'm like, I have no idea whether I'm getting any return recognition. Like, I don't know what this achieves. When I get this magazine, you're saying this magazine goes out to 20,000 people, whatever the hell it does. I've never opened it. Like, I just feel like I'm throwing money and I don't know where the hell it's going. Maybe I need to talk to someone like you.
I mean, we can put a phone number on that's unique to that article. So we know every phone call that you get from that is from that article.
Yep.
One of the best things that COVID did, other than training people to have online meetings, is training people to use QR codes.
Yeah.
And so, like, before COVID, no one would ever scan a QR code. Now they're drilled into it. So you put a QR code on an ad like that, and we can measure that as well.
Okay.
So you've got all these different points that you can measure where when it comes around to doing that ad again, so, well, actually, I can see last time I got one phone call and that was a time waster, and I got 3 scans of the QR code and none of them actually converted into a lead. Like, okay, so it's not worth doing then. No, it's not.
No. Cool. All right, which went off for a bit of a tangent. Let's keep going through business.
But definitely do some marketing.
Well, I need to. Yeah. Let's talk about this off air. But
It's a way to solve a problem.
Yep.
And it's just like any business tactic.
Yep. Cool. So when did Refuel start? Was that your next business venture?
Yeah. So that was I guess my next business venture technically was I ran a small business called Pure Motorsport for a while.
Oh, really?
I
knew you were into motorsports. Right. What did that look like?
So we were doing live streaming of motorsport events. Back before YouTube streaming was a thing, and
God, you've done some cool
Facebook
stuff.
streaming. And so it was all the hard mode, and in hindsight, we're probably doing this a couple of years early.
Yep.
The internet connections were shit, so
it was just too hard to stream.
We got it out there, and we did some cool stuff, and we built it up to a point where we did a couple of national series.
Yeah.
So I followed the Australian Rally Championship around for a year, doing streaming their end of event press conferences online. And
so was that business profitable?
Well, not really.
No.
Like, it was enough to, because it was the ARC was 5 or 6 rounds a year, so it was enough to help me live out my dreams of traveling around and following a series. And
so how did you make money? Was that did they pay you to stream it, or like who?
So they got the year that we followed it around, they had Honda as the main manufacturer in the championship.
Yep.
And we ran everything through this platform that we built called Rally Live, powered by Honda.
Yeah.
And so it had Honda branding all over it, and you'd go to this page and it'd have all your links to all your results and all the videos that were coming out as like fast turnaround edit type stuff, and the streaming and everything as well. So we did that, and then we did some corporate streaming off the back of that as well. We looked at some other sports, but ultimately a lot of the sporting bodies at the time, unless they were big enough to be on Foxtel, they just didn't have the revenue to be able to support that kind of activity.
Okay.
And this was kind of at a point where rights issues were coming into it as well. And we got really close to a deal with a pretty significant Adelaide team.
Yep.
And then, we were just about to sign off on it, and turn around that the national series went, no, we're doing a national deal here and you can't do your own state-based things.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's just that kind of just dropped off on its own over time because we didn't push it hard enough with the revenue side, really.
Yep.
Just seemed like when we were going out to people, they just didn't want to, they were happy to take it if it was free, but they weren't happy to pay for it.
Yeah, okay.
And funnily enough, it's become really easy to do now, and people are a lot more interested in paying for it.
Yeah.
So, maybe if we kept on with that with a couple more years or found a couple of other sports that could push it,
Yep.
that might have been a thing, but it's definitely been a service line that we've offered Refuel since I started that business.
Oh, is it?
We've streamed some events for EO Adelaide.
Okay.
We streamed the NT non-profit leaders debate.
Yep.
For not their recent election, the one before.
Yep.
We've done quite a bit of remote streaming and things like that.
Yeah.
We do all the rolling. COVID was a good thing for that because they couldn't have people there. So
So it was more of a necessity. Hey, we need to get this out there.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're not. SA Health say we can't have people. Well, the NT leaders debate was the weirdest thing you've ever seen because of the 1.5 metre rule.
Yeah.
So the chairs were arranged in a checkerboard.
Yeah. Okay.
With 1.5 metres between them, and it was just so weird.
Yeah.
But so as a result, they wanted to stream this on Facebook, and
Yep.
so that was
Cool.
So all this stuff that happened in the early days really fed into what we built Refuel out as, and
You've done some interesting stuff.
it's been cool.
So let's get into Refuel. So were you sole founder or did you start that with a couple of other people?
No, so I was the sole founder there.
Okay, cool.
Kind of jumped out on my own, and my partner and I talked about what happens if it fails, what happens if the work doesn't come in, but I had enough work at the time that I figured I could sustain myself.
Yep.
And within a couple of months, within the first month really, I was doing long days and long weeks. And really after probably 2 months, I realised that, I had too much on. I said yes to everything because I was worried that it was going to run out.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out a better way of doing this. I need to bring other people in.
So you were still by yourself at that stage?
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe month 3, I brought in somebody to give me a hand, and somebody else, and we sort of built this collective of freelancers and casuals and just people that could come together to build out the projects.
And how was your initial experience with hiring staff? Because I sucked at it. I was horrible and extremely uncomfortable.
So the first year or so,
Yep.
I used freelancers exclusively. I didn't hire anyone.
So just
directly.
contractors.
Yeah, and even that, I sucked at that.
Yep.
I always felt that if you hired good people who knew what they were doing, you just kind of hire them, tell them, give them the brief, and then let them go.
Yep.
But that was dumb.
Why?
Because they don't know how to do it the way that you want it done,
Yeah.
the way that you expect it done.
Yep.
I started this business and it had grown to a point very quickly because of
the way you did
the way
things.
I do things, and then I'm not telling people how I want to do things.
Mm-hmm. I fell into that trap of not wanting I had a lot of self-doubt, and so if somebody wanted to do something a bit differently, I would just be like, you must know as good as me, not realising that the business had gotten to the position that it is based on the standards that I put on myself, right? And then I just ended up redoing everything, and then not having the confidence to be able to have those conversations. Hey, this is not how it needs to be done. And it's been a journey.
So we kind of decided to hire people internally that we could train up and make sure that they were versed in our ways. And believe it or not, this was 2 years before COVID, maybe.
Yep.
People were knocking us back because they didn't want to work from home.
Oh, really? Oh, so you didn't have an office at that?
We didn't have an office at that point.
Okay.
And people were like, nah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean no? What's like? Is the only reason is the work from home thing? Yeah, I don't want to work
Do you
from
think
home.
it was the work from home thing, or do you think there was a perception of you being a tin pot operation?
Oh, look, probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, because I found that in the early days. I maybe this is just my own feeling, but the second people realise that you like got 1 or 2 employees, they're like, huh? I'm not gonna like that's if like I had conversations with staff saying, oh, my wife, like, well, wanting to hire staff, and they said, no, my wife doesn't want me to do that because there's no security. You know what I mean? You could be closed down.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel like hiring people in the early days was a lot more difficult. And I still find this now, like, with the whole BDM situation, how do you convince somebody that works for a big multinational to come over and jump to your small business that's barely got, that's still working on product development? And I just feel like, and maybe this is my own internal lack of confidence, but I just feel like people don't take me seriously enough,
I think it's the excitement of getting involved in a project like that.
Yeah, well, that's what you've got to push. And something that I've been pushing lately is, I know there's a lot of bureaucracy in these big business, very corporatized, and, we are not that. We're a very fast and dynamic and kind of free moving organization.
Yeah.
So.
We are that as well. But we're having to slow down in a few areas now just to make sure that there are a few checks and balances.
Yeah, there's a reason these bigger companies are slow monstrosities. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But we're just making sure that people, the big thing at the moment is just making sure people have got the support that they need to be able to do things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means that they need an extra checklist, or they need a template, or something like that. But we've got to a point with the team now where they feel comfortable saying, actually, I'm not comfortable doing that.
Yep.
Why aren't you comfortable doing that? Oh, I need this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think has been some of the biggest pain points or issues in growing the business?
Growing a business is hard.
Yeah.
Growing a business quickly is even fucking harder.
Well, I feel like for me, most of the difficulty has just become from my lack of skill and knowledge. Like, I've just struggled to keep up with the growth. And a lot of that comes down to managing people. It comes down to realizing that as the business gets bigger, you need to make a shift into systems building, and stuff like that, accountability, all of those kind of things.
Trusting the wrong people can often be a big problem as well.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned before about how we're expected to be an accountant and a project manager and a marketer and all those things. You can't be all those things.
Yeah.
So, I took the approach of I needed to bring in people who were good at those things. Brought in an accountant who just led us up the garden path. And
internally or externally?
Externally.
Yeah.
But even then, they just weren't doing the job properly. And
you want to dive into a bit more what happened there?
Oh, it's just you bring these people and you trust them to look after your tax compliance and things like that. But the accounting industry is finally waking up to this. I've had a couple of people talk to me recently, but they're not very good at the strategic part of accounting. So you're budgeting, you're forecasting, knowing that tax is going to be due, knowing where that is.
Yep.
So
exactly the same. And I just swapped accountants a few months ago, and it was the same thing. It was just like there was no strategy. And then when I tried to actually talk to them about what I want to achieve in the next 12 months, they kind of couldn't be bothered with it and all of this. So I ended up swapping to a new accountant, and he's brilliant. So I think a lot of those things where you just kind of hire someone and you expect them to have what you need, that they don't. So
the funny thing is that a good accountant is often not more expensive than a shit accountant.
Yeah.
But I hope you sleep at night because you know that things are covered and you know things are where they need to be.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure other people have got the same experience with lawyers and marketers and people like that. You really need to be aware of that kind of stuff just because the impact that it can have.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I know you talked on a previous episode about tax debts and things like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, a bad accountant can cause something like that even if you do everything right.
Yeah.
It's just a shit post to be.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, and then just the mistakes that you've got to learn all this stuff because no one really takes you through so yeah, running a small business, Sonny, here we go. Here's the things you need to know. You got to learn how to hire properly and yeah, just hustle a bit, mate. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody's got to teach you how to do all these things and you got to teach yourself how to do a lot of it so that you can...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overworking, that's been an issue for you in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody running a business, really.
Yeah. Where are you at with that now?
I had a really challenging last year.
As did I.
Yeah, so the overworking came back quite a bit, and I got myself back into some old habits.
Yep. It sneaks back in.
Yeah, I got a 2-year-old now that doesn't really want to have a bar of that.
Yep.
So if I get home, you know, I can go into my office and close the door, but she'll just sit at the door banging until I come out. So that does help balance things out a little bit, but you know, if you're looking at it from the outside, you're looking at, oh, that person's successful, whatever it is, you don't realize how much effort is going into getting that success.
Oh, yeah. Look, that's a very common problem. You know, people want the outcome. They don't want to put the work in that got the outcome. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. They don't want all the pain that's beneath that iceberg of, you know, success. So.
And like these influencers, like these entrepreneurial influencers, they want to celebrate the wins, but they don't realize that, that meant a lot of late nights and early mornings and...
Yeah, look, I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody, you know.
No,
I almost admire people that just realise that, you know, they don't want to live a stressed out life and, you know, they're comfortable, you know. I've got an issue where I go through cycles of working my arse off because I feel like I need to achieve something, otherwise I'm a worthless failure. And then I burn out, and then I don't do a lot. Like I just kind of relax and build back up, and then I go, oh, I'm not doing enough, and then I'll take on too much, and that cycle just continues over the years, and it's just a constant cycle of burnout. So I'm trying to figure out how I can kind of flatten that curve and stop that from happening constantly. So
for me, it feels like a lot of external pressure. Like particularly if you win a couple of awards and stuff, and then you think there's a lot expected of you to be able to back that up or to
But do you think that's external pressure, or do you think that's internal pressure that you're calling external pressure?
I mean, that's part of the realization the last couple of years since I joined EL a couple of years ago. I really feel like there's been a lot more introspective going on, and reality is probably I've made that up myself and I've felt that myself, and it's not real. So perhaps it's not something I really need to worry about. But equally, there are times in the business where you feel like you're fighting for your survival, and you just need to do what's required to get it across the line.
Yeah. I think it's just about being conscious of it. Because I think the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, right, is they go, look, I just need to get here. Okay, I really, and then they get here, and then before they even, they might crack a smile and that's it. And then they've shifted the goalpost to the next battle, and they just live their whole life chasing and never actually enjoying.
You get to those points.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe it, mate, but no one throws you a fucking parade. Where's my parade? Where's my balloons? Where's my champagne corks? You just...
Yeah. well, going back to the mental health aspect, I mean, I think I thought my quality of life was all based around my level of success. But I think my quality of life is based around my mental health, right? So that's something I'm really focusing on, right? So mental health comes first, business comes second, because there was like so much of my life I've been so stressed out and miserable because I've thought I just need to be successful. And like my quality of life's just not there. Like I genuinely think I could remain at the level I am and be happy just concentrating on mental health. But I guess you've got to do something with your life as well. So I found this out last year. So I've told this story a couple of times, but I was so stressed out in the business that I was on the verge of a panic attacks and nervous breakdowns, which has happened to me earlier in the business career. And so I just went, I'm having a couple of weeks off and I'm delegating everything. And then I came to the realization that I could be doing that a lot more. So now, realistically, I don't have to work those crazy hours anymore. So I shortened down my hours. And after about 2 weeks, I'd go, well, I'm fucking bored. And I started looking at opening other ventures and stuff like that.
Starting a podcast.
And I think that's what this kind of global expansion piece is about, because I'm just kind of bored and, I could put the business into kind of maintenance level and make a good income. I don't know. I'm still figuring all that out. Yeah.
We did an exercise on our mini retreat a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
With a forum about intrinsic beliefs and motivations, the ones that are kind of baked in there from a very early age that you don't even realize that you've got anymore.
Yeah.
And it really made me realize like the amount of shit that we hang on to that doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
That, you don't even realize is there some of the time.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm just figuring out over the last year or so. Like my internal monologue is, you're not worthy and you need to prove to the world that you belong and that you're actually acceptable to society. And the only way you can prove that is by material success.
But the thing you come to learn is no one gives a fuck.
No, nobody gives a fuck. And also, even if they do, is that how you want to live your life? So I'm smack bang in the middle of this like meaning crisis, because I derived all my meaning from trying to make other people see me as worthy. And is that like, I don't know, tower built on there's no footings is crumbling. I'm trying to figure out what the hell I actually want my life to look like. And I haven't got the answer yet. I'm still like smack bang in the middle of a meaning crisis. But stuff like this, I think I want to focus more on connection, and that's I really enjoyed the podcast, talking to people like you and trying to get a deeper level of connection with people. The realization that quality of life is more linked to mental health and success. That's a big one for me. Making sure that my value of being a good husband and father comes above material success, right? Like, what's the point of having all this money? And you see this. You see people that build their business for 30 years, but every single other aspects of their life has crumbled beneath them, right? They're divorced, so they've lost half of what they built anyway. They barely know their kids. And like, I just don't want to live out that regret that so many before me have done. So, and I think that's just about what you said, very, consistent introspection, and also, just figuring out what those underlying beliefs are. Do you want to talk about what you came up with? What were your conclusions there? Or
I can't even remember, to be honest with you. I think the thing I took away more is just the questioning of everything and going, is that actually what I believe, or is that what's been baked into me from day one? And a lot of this stuff was really holding me back a little bit.
Yeah.
You realize that what is that thing like?
Yeah.
The success. It's feel like you've got to be a success, and then you go out and talk to people about your success, and don't give a fuck or they think you're bragging about it. And, yeah, that's a good thing about finding EL and
Yep.
being in a group of business owners that actually appreciate the effort that it's taken to get that win.
Yeah.
It's not as though you actually won the lottery. You worked really hard to do that.
Yeah.
So you can say it without being perceived as bragging or big noting. Whereas you can't have those conversations with a lot of people anymore.
Yeah, no, you get to this weird point where you catch up with old friends and you feel like you can't talk about the business because it just feels like you are being braggadocious or whatever. Yet that business also encapsulates your whole life. So you've got nothing to fucking talk about with anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And you just become this weird, weird outcast of your previous friends. And then that's why, a community like EO has been so goddamn helpful,
Sometimes you're just catching up with people as well where the problems that they're dealing with, not to minimize their issues, but they're not real problems.
No. And they're all self-inflicted and, they're just, yeah.
My head offer, my manager's making me buy purple paper clips. And, it's really bothering me because it's just such a dumb decision. It's like, cool, how am I going to make payroll for 15 people next week?
Yeah, but it's funny you say that because I've caught up with a few ultra successful people recently. And then they make my problems seem so to me. I'm like, I'm that guy to this guy. So it really puts everything in perspective.
Well, my mate says the reward that we get for success is bigger and more complicated problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think we naturally create them and without being very, I guess, careful about what we take on. It's just so easy.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about, my man?
Anything else you want to ask about?
No.
Cool.
I think we're good. Appreciate you coming on.
Enough hard stuff today, did we?
Yeah, we did.
All right, good.
Appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Lou. It's good fun.